Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Let's welcome today's speaker, Courtney.
Hey, I'm Courtney. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Lydia for asking me to speak to. I remember when you came in, and you are such a miracle. And it's extraordinary, right? We get to see miracles all the time here. And happy birthday to the birthday people, especially my Piper. I love you. Piper has 1.5 years more sobriety than I do. And she refuses to drink so that I will have more, which I think is very selfish. I think you'll all agree. Welcome, newcomers. So many of you are young, and I was 23 when I got sober. And all I have to tell you, it's a great place to grow up. It really is. I know it feels like a long time to spend sober, but it would really be a long time if you were drinking. It doesn't get better out there. It gets worse and worse, and there's more and more regrets. I was at Yom Kippur services yesterday. I know I look super Jewish, and I am. My husband is Jewish, so it's always sort of new to me when I hear what they're talking about. And they were talking about regrets. Yom Kippur is a day of atonement, and your regrets. And they said, the worst regrets are promises not kept. And I just have this feeling in my gut, you know. I've been sober 23.5 years, and still the memory of how many times I woke up and said I wasn't going to drink again, and how many times I had a horrible night and said I wasn't going to put myself through that again, and how many times I broke that promise to myself, and how devastating that is, and the reality that for 23.5 years I haven't had to do that. When they're talking about broken promises and said apologize for broken promises, I don't have any anymore. You know, it's not a part of my life. I wake up every day with this feeling of being clean. I look forward to my day. I don't have regrets. I apologize when things happen. I just have this extraordinary freedom in my life today that I couldn't have imagined. And not just from the drinking, from the way I was raised. So, I will start to tell you my story, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So, I was born in the late 60s in Northern California, which was really, really a bad call on my part. It was really, I mean, it was the time when all the parents who sort of missed the 60s said, hey, it's my turn. And all their kids went, what? You know, we were all sort of, my mom talks all the time about how well planned we were, that they went to Big Sur and conceived my sister and I separately. And I like, but you didn't get the memo that then you were supposed to take care of us. Like that's the part, that part was planned, and then she went, no, it's my turn. I'm like, really, no, it really was not supposed to be your turn. Most of my memories are of either being alone in my house or being in my house some way in service to my parents. My parents were not addicts or alcoholics. They were just extraordinarily self-centered. They were the charming, attractive, self-centered people, which is very confusing because I really like them, but they didn't take care of me, and that's it's like sort of living with popular people who ignore you. It's a really weird reality. When I was about 5, my parents went to Est to learn how to be more self-centered because that's what they really needed. And I was walking my dogs the other day, and I just started crying. So I'm either listening to David Sedaris and laughing alone with my dogs walking, or I'm crying, so my neighbors think I'm insane. But I had this memory of that weekend, and I went, wait a minute, did they leave us with a stranger? Like, all of a sudden I remembered that, and I mean, it was before Craigslist. How do you even find strangers to stay with their kids for a weekend? But I just remember this woman with like a gray buzz cut who hated kids living in my house for a weekend. And I have this memory of bringing like a game. I think it was probably Sorry, because that was my favorite game. And I had this clear memory of bringing the game to her and saying, "Would you play with me?" And her going, "No." And, that's sad, but just the feeling of, okay, like that I accepted that was appropriate. That this stranger would live in their house and not play with me for a weekend while my parents were off not peeing and listening to how they could be more selfish is astounding. As a mom, it's astounding to me. My parents got home from Est, and my mom, God bless them, they did try to do it, but my mom said to me one time, she said, I was crying, I guess, and she said, "Courtney, if you want to cry, that's okay." Pretty good. She said, "But it makes me uncomfortable, so you need to do it in the other room." Which was, my childhood, right? If anything I thought or felt or was made them uncomfortable, it was shameful. I had to go do it in the other room. I have memories of my parents divorced when I was 7. And, I would so love to say that they said, "We're divorcing. This is going to be traumatic for the kids. Here's what we should do. We should really make sure that their lives are impacted as little as possible. Let's keep them in their wonderful nurturing school across the street, and let's just focus on them." Not what happened. My mom said, "Okay, I'm newly in love. I'm going to move an hour away to be with my partner." My dad said, "This is the perfect time to start a company. So what we're going to do is we're going to move them to a public school 5 miles away in this very fancy area, and not my cup of tea, but we're going to put them in this public school in the middle of this fancy area where they'll ride their bikes, and we're going to go and do our own thing." And for those of you who were raised in the 70s, it was just it was the time of, I remember waiting outside of countless women's groups in weird, dark libraries. I remember I spent more time in strange rooms during single ski weekends than I can count. There'd be a whole bunch of these poor kids of divorced parents, and we'd be sitting in a room while our parents we know what our parents were doing, but they're in the bed. It was so weird. And my dad would come in every once in a while and go, "You're okay, right?" And I was like, I think part of me knew I wanted to go, "No, I'm not okay." But I was so used to being sort of brushed aside that I didn't have that voice. It's taken me a long time to get angry, and it really took having my own kid and knowing what you're supposed to do. So you go, "Oh, you're supposed to take care of your kid." Well, that's a novel idea. And they just left us. So my mom moved. We pretty much raised herself in this house. And I believe I'm genetically an alcoholic because it's all through my father's family, and the second I had a drink, I was an alcoholic. But I also believe that the fact that I was so not loved and supported growing up, the fact that I had no sense of myself as valuable, I had no sense of who I was, because there was nobody saying, if I come home if I had a feeling, no one said, "Oh, really, what's that feeling like?" They would say, "That feeling makes me uncomfortable. I don't like that feeling. You shouldn't have that feeling." I wasn't allowed to say, "I don't want to sit in your girlfriend's den all weekend, Daddy," or, "Mom, no, I don't want to be in a house alone all week while you're in Mill Valley with your partner." I couldn't say that, so I didn't have a sense of who I was being valuable. So when I was 15 and I had my first drink, and I felt pretty, and I felt smart, and it was like I felt the alcohol going in, and it sort of filled in. It's like I was an outline of a person, and the alcohol filled me in. And I sort of embodied myself with the alcohol. It literally filled me up and made me a person. So from the second I had my first drink, I was like, I am not doing without this. For my first drink, I was stealing it from my dad's liquor cabinet. I was hiding it. I didn't want to be without it. I drank all the time. I went from an extremely good student to a far less good student. I made a lot of mistakes. I remember my focus being on alcohol very early. And it worked for a while. I think that's the thing that's hard to give up. We all have a memory, especially if you're new. You have a memory of it working. You have a memory of it really making things okay. You have a memory of it really being a friend that doesn't let you down and that makes you feel like you're really yourself and you can take on anything. But it turns on us. So I drank, and I drank through high school, and then I started working very young. I started working when I was 17. And for a long time, I could separate my work life from my drinking life. But, you know, as always happens, they started to overlap. And when I first started drinking when I worked, I got a lot of affirmation. People said, wow, you're so relaxed when you're working. Like, woo! But then it goes too far, right? I mean, there's that minute. I remember watching, when I was newly sober, watching a documentary about Judy Garland. And you could see, I mean, it was so obvious. I mean, when she was 40, she looked like she was a not good 80. It, like, took her down. But you could see her trying to, like, I could see it in her eyes, because I know that feeling, trying to get to that place where you have the alcohol, and it's good just before it tips over, right? Like you're trying, and the longer we drink, the harder it is to get that point. Like at first, when you first drink, you drink and you're there for a while. Like you're there all night. But over time, it's like for a second, right? You're like a teeter-totter, just goes boom, and then you're just flying through the air. You just get thrown away. And once you hit that point, there's no going back. You know, it's like you say, you can't go back to a cucumber once you're a pickle. There's no going back. So if you're new and you think you still have good drinking in you, you're not here by accident. People don't wander into AA. You know what I mean? You're not like on your way to Starbucks and you happen into AA. And it's a big mistake. It's not. It's not. So my drinking got worse and worse and worse. And I was a round-the-clock drinker. And I'm grateful for that because I didn't have much illusion of control. I mean, once I started, I was drinking around the clock. I was 20, 21, 22, I had kept vodka in a hairspray bottle in my purse. So my memory of vodka always tastes a little bit like hairspray. And I would carry it around with me because if I didn't drink, I would start to shake. I'd get the DTs. And so I was drinking all around the clock. And if I'd try to stop, I would start shaking. I would wake up at 3. I remember seeing Leaving Las Vegas. And, Nicolas Cage was playing this alcoholic on the end. I remember him crawling to the fridge, shaking like this to get his booze. And I was like, I know that. Like, I know that feeling. When I was 22, I got pancreatitis, which is a really horrible disease. And I was in the hospital. And apparently, the doctor who was working there said to me, you can really never drink again or it can become chronic. And I would swear to you, he said, really try not to drink for a couple weeks, but New Year's is coming up, so of course you're going to drink that. So I did. So New Year's came and I drank, and this was my plan, because I'm super smart. I would take a sip and I'd feel my pancreas, and and my pancreas started to get sore. I'd back off a little bit, because I'm smart, and I would feel, and this can become chronic. You can die from it, you can have chronic pain, but I had an alcoholic brain. And another thing, if you're new, your brain doesn't work yet. It's still being processed through the alcoholic filter. So your alcoholic brain is still stronger than your sober brain. And your alcoholic brain has a louder voice. And your alcoholic brain is saying, you should probably drink. I'm your real friend. You should probably drink. So I kept drinking. Finally, somebody called me who I worked with and said, you have a problem. And at the time, I was so relieved because I was so out of control. And I said, oh, my God, you're right. And he said, you go to AA. And I said, no, totally don't need AA. Totally, I've got it. I wanted to quit anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and quit, and we're good. So I went through DTs on my own, totally dangerous. I quit. I went to job auditions, literally, I remember like doing this and shaking like this in job auditions, and I got one, which is ridiculous. So I went and did a job, and I didn't drink the whole time, and I thought, I'm so much happier drinking this. I'm going to celebrate on my way home with a cocktail. So on my way home on the plane, I had a cocktail, and, cut to the next morning, I'm in the freezer, taking the vodka out of the freezer, and I'm chugging the vodka the next morning. And I thought, okay, I need a new plan, because that didn't work. So here's my new plan. I am going to just take one weekend and drink a lot, and just get it out of my system, because that's how alcoholism works. The more you drink, it just cleans it right out. So I was drinking, and how I remember it is, Piper's heard the story, how I remember it is, there was a knock at the door, and I opened the door, and my mother was there, like an angel. And she said, sweetie, have you been drinking? And I said, yes, and she took me to the hospital, like an angel from heaven. So I told that story at Thanksgiving one time. My mom goes, that's not remotely what happened. And what happened was, I was coming for a scheduled visit, and you were supposed to pick me up at the airport, and apparently when she called me, I said, I'm not doing the family thing right now, and I hung up on her. So she took a cab to the house, but by then I'd forgotten, and she was like an angel from heaven. So anyway, she took me to Cedars. And this was when rehab was rehab. I mean, this was when rehab, they were dirty rooms in a grungy old hospital, and there was no, I remember asking if I could exercise, and they were like, squeeze me? Like, they'd know, like, you can walk up and down the hall, rock on. And they would take us in a little group, they'd walk us over to the log cabin. And this is where, and this is where my childhood of neglect totally worked for me. Because I walked in and I was like, oh my God, there's all these people here and they're smiling. Oh my God, can I come? Can I be here? I'm like, yeah, you can come as often as you want. And I was just floored. It was like, and I remember hearing something which is so true, that alcohol is not, AA, not alcohol. Alcohol is for everybody. That's a great thing about alcohol. Alcoholics Anonymous is not for those who need it, it's for those who want it. So you can need it as much as you want, and you can never get it. But if you want it, it's here for you. You know, everybody in this room will share their experience, strength, and hope with you. We can't wait to, because we've all had miracles, and we all want to give it away because it was given so freely. And I wanted it. Like, I wanted what you guys had so badly. I saw people saying hello to each other. I saw people smiling. I saw people sharing their story. And, you know, I've been sober for 23 and a half years, and I never get over it. Like, I walk into a meeting, and that people suit up and show up, that people bring food, that people bring coffee, that people give out numbers, that people sponsor each other, that people do what they say they're going to do. I will never get over it. I knew I was going to cry. It's allergies. It's allergies. But I will never get over it. And a lot of that is because it's so different from what I had. You know, I came home to an empty house my entire childhood. And nobody wanted to hear what I was really feeling. And when I first started going to meetings after I got out of rehab, I went to, there were these great women's meetings in Brentwood, and I think now they're somewhere in the Palisades. And I went there 3 times a week. And I brought food every time I went because I can't show up empty-handed. And finally, Harriet took me aside one day, and she said, you know, sweetie, you don't have to bring food. You can just bring you. And I felt so caught and so embarrassed because she'd nailed me, right? I felt like I couldn't just come. I have to bring a big plate of bagels, and I have to spend a lot on them because I have to bring at least $20 to earn my seat, right? I didn't know that I had earned my seat, that my desire to get sober earned my seat. I could say my drinking earned my seat, but my drinking earned me a lot of pain. My desire to be sober earned me my seat. That's all I needed to be here. And I spent, you know, an hour and a half with those women 3 days a week, and I found other meetings, and it took me a long time to share, and I know now because no one wanted to hear what I had to share at home. And at first my shares were really glossy, and I'd think about what I wanted to say in advance, and then over time I learned to just share authentically. And what I saw is that the more authentic my shares were, the more, I don't want to say affirmation because I wasn't looking for affirmation, but the more genuine connection I felt. You know, the more authentic my shares were, then people who had the same feeling, who had the same experience could come up and talk to me. That's how I found my people. You know, I met Piper. I was brand new when I met Piper, and it took us like 5 years to be friends. I saw her. I thought, wow, she's funny and she's cool. It took 5 years. You know, it took time. I had to that thing that alcohol had done so quickly, which was sort of fill me up and make me feel like a solid, real person. It took a long time to do that in sobriety because you do it chunk by chunk by chunk. You know, I mean, the steps are here because we need to learn how to live. You know, when I was in rehab and they told me there were 12 steps, I was like, are you kidding? You're going to tell me how to live? You're not going to leave me alone in a house with Chuck Woolery and expect me to put all the pieces together? Like, I didn't. Everything I knew from Love Connection, the Brady Bunch. Like, there was nobody actually teaching me. And I think about how all the time I spend with my son, my husband, I spend with my son, talking to him about his day and what happened, and nobody told me anything. I knew nothing. And you know, at 17 I started working. My parents sent me to LA to start working. I mean, there was no guidance. It's a wonder I made it through as intact as I did. It really is. And you know, people say that alcohol saved my life so I could get here. Absolutely true. I would have been dead. I can promise you I would have killed myself if I hadn't found alcohol. And it kept me alive long enough to get me here. Okay, so what it's like now. Now I want to talk a little bit more about the steps, because I've got like 10 more minutes. I've got so much time. So I found a sponsor, because they wouldn't let me leave rehab without a sponsor. And she walked me through the steps. And for me, everybody has a different experience. The steps were most important because they made me feel a part of. Because I never felt a part of anywhere in my life. I certainly didn't feel a part of my family. And, you know, my job is performing, so I performed at work. So I never felt like I was authentically myself at work. And it was a time for me to learn to tell the truth and to be heard. You know, the first time I read my first step to my sponsor, and she just sat there, went, okay. I was like, you're not going to argue, you're not going to negate me, you're not going to tell me I'm wrong. She's like, yeah, it's your experience. And that was amazing. And then when I read my fourth step, and it was so shameful, and it was so dark, and she was like, okay, I've done that and worse. I was like, really? And I remember the day after I did my fifth step, which is, for those of you, it's when you read your fourth step to your sponsor. And I sat in my seat and I felt such ownership. Like I'd been through it, like I could look around and I go, we all know what that is. You know, you go through these experiences and then you look around and you know all these people have done that too. And then when people are saying your first step, yeah, me too, you know what you've been through. And that was so important to me because I had no way of feeling a part of a group before I could be really honest. And I had no way of being seen because I didn't know how to be authentic because I'd spent my whole life being who I had to be to make my mom, keep my mom calm and make my dad laugh. And I had no sense of who I was authentically. I had to completely learn that in here. So, what it's like today. My life today is so extraordinary, and it's not extraordinary in the ways I would have guessed. You know, we say in these rooms that if you ask for what you want, you'll sell yourself short. You know, you should ask for God's will because, you know, I only have my experience to draw from. And my experience was so much one of neglect and loneliness that I couldn't have created my life. So I would come in these rooms and I would turn it over and I would put one foot in front of the other. And I have this extraordinarily rich life today. And, you know, I was thinking about it the other day because it's not my son's job to make me happy. I have a 6.5-year-old son. And it's not his job to make me happy. It's his job to be a kid. But in making a secure and loving home for him, I've created a secure and loving home for myself. You know, I mean, I was sitting there, he was homesick the other day, and I was sitting in bed with him, and we had the dogs on the bed, and we were sitting there, and I just wrote to my girlfriends, and I said, man, this could have turned out so differently. You know, I mean, I was going down such a different path. I would have been dead. I mean, I had pancreatitis at 21, but had I not died, my life would have been so sad. I would be so sick. It would be an endless series of regrets. And I think it's so hard to understand. You hear it in the birthday shares, but, you know, my husband will often say, there's somebody very dear to me who still struggles with this disease. And it's hard to say struggle because her denial is so extraordinary that I don't think she struggles. But, you know, you see her lose things and lose things and lose things. And my husband always says, you know, you should be so proud. I said, you don't understand. There's nothing to be proud. It was a gift. It was a miracle. I was given this. I walked into a room and I wanted to stay. So if you're new and there's even a teeny tiny bit of you that wants to stay, please nurture that part. I promise you. There's nothing out there with alcohol but more regret. You will end up here someday if you're lucky. If you're very, very lucky, you'll end up here someday. And you can start now. Having gotten sober at 23 and grown up in these rooms, I can tell you it's the best thing. There was no problem in my life that drinking would not have made worse. I've gone through a lot of hard times, and I went through them with dignity. And the most amazing thing about these rooms is no matter what you go through, if you share it honestly, there are so many people who've been through it, who will come up to you and say, I went through the exact same thing, here's what I did. I went through the exact same things, here's where I found my experience, strength, and hope. Or just, I went through the same thing, it sucks. You know, when my dad got cancer and died, I had so much love and support. It was the only place I could go and just be sad, to just raise my hand and just say, I'm just so fucking sad. You know, my dad is dying. There's no silver lining. It's just devastating. And I would just go be with him. I would suit up. I would show up. I would be there for my stepmom and my stepsisters. I was not a burden. I wasn't in the way. I helped where I could. And we just walked through it. And I would come to meetings, and I would be real, and I would have people come up to me and just say, yeah, it's hard, and it's going to be hard for a while. And nobody here ever said, you should be feeling better. And I would call my stepmom often, and I would say, how are you? She'd go, I'm okay. And I'd say, I'm really sad. And she'd go, oh, thank God, me too. Because I feel like people are so sick of me saying I'm sad. And I said, you can say it to me every day. There's no time limit on grief. There's no time limit on sadness. You know, people here don't say, get over it, stop it. People will go, oh, I'm so sorry, sweetie, I've been there. Or if I haven't been there, I know someone who's been there. And we can help you through it. So, I don't regret my childhood. It was my childhood. The deeper I get into raising my own kid, the sadder I know it is. The angrier I get. And I don't resent my parents. I'm mad because I had to get mad to take my life back. I had to, in order to realize that there was a different way to be, in order to realize that I get to have my feelings, I get to say my truth, I get to be who I am, I got to be mad. I'm not mad at them today. I mean, they missed out. My dad said when he was dying, I said, is there anything you regret? He goes, I lived my life, the exact life I wanted, except I wish I'd spent more time with you girls when you were small. He said, I honestly thought that I would get it back later. He goes, but you never get that time back. He said, I could spend every day with you now, but that time is gone. And because of that, I spend a lot of time with my kid. And I make choices in my life based on regrets I don't want to have later. And it is a joy. And my husband, who had a different childhood, but he also spent a lot of time alone, we just look at each other. And I will say, you know, there's this extraordinary sweetness to my life. You know, I have 4 dear friends I have dinner with every week. And I never get over it. You know, I drive to dinner and I think, these are women who would walk over hot coals for me, and I for them, and I don't doubt anything. These are women who know me so well, they laugh at me before I can tell them what happened to my day. They know everything about me. I have no secrets. Now, I was going to have my husband come today, but our son ended up not having what he was supposed to do. And I thought, man, I want to have my husband, who's not in this program, come and see me. I don't have secrets today. I mean, if you're new, it's hard to imagine a world where you don't have secrets, where you live your life day to day. I look at my kid and my husband and my life, and we laugh and we talk and we play, and we were all curled up in bed with the 2 dogs watching a movie last night, and I thought, this will never get old. Because every day that I have this loving family and this life full of love, it's uncharted territory for me. You know, I didn't have this. This wasn't a world I even imagined when I was sitting home alone every day, all day, feeling like that's what I deserved because I wasn't worthy of love or affection or parenting. And I learned here that I am. And I brought that in the world. And because I want my kid to have something different, I created this loving family. You know, I was home the other day and we had my kids' ex-nanny's entire family staying in our guest house. And we had a play date for him, and we had people stopping by, and we have this house where people come by for dinner. I say the more the merrier. People, thank you. People say, I'm almost done, so that works out great for me. Where, you know, people come by. My kid has all these people he calls aunts and uncles. We had a vacation house last year. We had 6 families come visit. His life is so full, and because I wanted to create a full, rich life for him, I have this full, rich life. I'm not afraid of people anymore. I welcome them into my life. I'm happy to meet new people. Which wasn't true for me when I got here, because I thought, well, I can't meet anybody new because they'll tell me how I'm supposed to think, feel, or be. That's not true anymore. I tell you who I am and what I think and what I feel. Because it's just, that's what I've earned here. I've earned the life I have today by being sober one day at a time for 23 and a half years. And it is the sweetest thing that's ever happened to me. And it was a gift and a miracle. And the miracle is wanting to be here. So if you're new and any part of you wants it, please nurture that part. Please call. Please stay. It's such an extraordinarily loving, wonderful, funny, generous way to live a life. And people keep coming back because when people say to me, do you still have to go to those meetings? And I go, I still get to go. I get to go and see miracles and see people's lives turned around. And I get to see people share who they are authentically. And I get to see joy. And I am so, as you can tell, and it's true, I'm so extraordinarily grateful. And thank you all for coming. And I wish you all the very best. Sit down.
You get to repeat the question. Okay?
I get to repeat the question.
Yes.
Oh, there's questions now.
Yes.
Apparently Piper's telling me I have mascara. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Courtney, for sharing today. How did being in AA affect your work in the beginning?
I stopped shaking, which was good. How did being in AA affect my work? I didn't work for a while, which I think is God, because I think I needed time to adjust and be sober. And being sober has done nothing but help my work. It's kept me grounded. My work is very up and down, but I have always considered myself primarily to be a sober woman. I mean, now I think I'm first a sober mother and a sober woman, then a sober wife, and then everything else comes behind. So it's made me a lot more relaxed in my work, because that's not where I live. You know, I live in my life, and I live here, and I go to work, and I play, and then I come back to my real life. So it's made me a lot more relaxed, a lot happier. Yeah?
Thanks for sharing. You talked about going to your husband's religious, practice. Do you have one of your own, or if not, what is your spiritual life?
Oh, that's a good question. Do I have my own religion? If not, what is my spiritual life? My son keeps asking me because he wants to be half Jewish, half Christian, because all his nannies have been these adorable Christian girls, and I think he's planning for his future. And I keep saying, honey, I'm not really Christian. I'm sort of like 12-step. I feel like, my 12-step spirituality encompasses everything I believe, and it's ever evolving. I choose to believe in a God. I think maybe because I choose to believe in God, I see God everywhere. My experience has shown me things happen for a reason. My biggest disappointments have led to my greatest gifts and my greatest victories. And like I said, I don't know if that's true. People get frustrated because they want to argue spirituality with me. I'm like, rock on. I don't know. I just believe it. I just picked it. I just made it up. It's just mine. And I choose to believe that there is a plan, and I choose to believe that things happen for a reason. And like I said, maybe because I choose to believe that, that's what I see in my life. But I was struck sober. I've been sober from my first meeting, and I went from this sad, lonely, empty life to this rich life full of love and joy and support. So it's hard for me not to believe in God because I've had a miracle. So that's my truth. Yes? What kind of relationship do I have with my parents today? My dad is gone, sadly, but we left on very good terms. I have a good relationship with my mother. She's funny and sweet and charming, and I take that for what it is. It's great to watch my son with her because he's been raised by me. Because I remember saying once to a therapist, I'm worried about my son with my mom, and she goes, he's had a different mother. He'll be good. And my mother said, because she projects all over, right? It's never her feeling, it's everybody's feelings. And they were sitting on the couch, and she goes, Jack, are you cold? Are you cold? You need a blanket. I think you're cold. Are you cold? And he goes, Nana, you're cold. I was like, done. So You know, I know that now. And I laugh and I take it with a grain of salt and I say to him and my well, you know, Nana's crazy. And then we carry on and she's fun, she's funny. You know, I mean, I enjoy her for what she is. And look, if she could have done it differently, she absolutely would have. She's never been able to get out of her own way. But she would have. I mean, absolutely she would have. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit how you work to about 6 and or 7 and how, like, being your own way a little bit and how you use those steps to maybe clear a path?
Can I talk about 6 and 7 and how I use them to clear a path? Can I read them exactly so that I don't completely mess them up? Okay. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our raw... Oh, no, it's 5. See, I should study this more. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. You know, I have honestly found that time, you know, we stay sober, we put one foot in front of the other, and things tend to fall away if we are as honest as we can be. I mean, you cannot be any more healed than you can be at any given point. And it's time. It's being sober and having the best of intentions and forgiving yourself and trying again and again and again. And my experience is that one day you wake up and you go, oh my God, it's done. Like, you know, my thing is running away, right? I was neglected. I'm very comfortable alone. I remember saying to my therapist one time, I was like, you know, I'll leave. She goes, okay, we're clear, you'll leave. Can we move on? And I had to learn to stay. And, you know, my husband's he was pretty neglected. We had to learn to stay. And on the other side of that was this sweet, loving security. But it was hard. Staying was hard. But I took contrary action and I knew what the greater good was and I sort of kept my eyes on it. And, you know, when you're sober a long time, you really can't hide from the truth as much anymore because your girlfriends won't let you. They'll call you on it. And, you know, if you do what is healthiest in this program, which is finding people who know you and see you and spending time with them in meetings that are intimate, where people know you, you can't hide from the truth for very long because you will get called on it. Yes?
I heard you're married to a normie.
I am.
Okay. Is he an Al-Anon? And do you ever find those situations like him wanting you to do something in your meetings? Do you ever find strife or struggle is there with the schedule and as a normie not, hey, nothing AA, do you ever get that?
No. Is it difficult being married to a normie? Does he ever get in the way of my meeting schedule? No, absolutely not. I mean, it's amazing. He has an intuitive understanding that who he has in me is because of this program. And I think it's such a part of me, right, that I can't say I'm grateful for my life without saying I'm grateful for my sobriety. It's so, the two paths are so remarkably different of me drunk and me sober. He doesn't go to Al-Anon. He doesn't need Al-Anon, which is fascinating. I remember watching him on the phone one morning, and he had a work situation, and somebody who worked for him was drunk, and when do I stop it? 5 minutes? Last question. Somebody who worked for him was apparently drunk and had locked herself into one of the offices, and I watched him on the phone, and he goes, no, you call the police. You call the police and you break down that door and you get her out of there. That is absolutely not okay. And I was watching him, and he looking like, are you okay? I was like, that was brilliant. Because of course that's what you should do. And I was thinking, oh, someone should hug her and they really need to be, but no! You call the police, there's a drunk person locked into an office. And I was like, no, that was actually brilliant. Like, I think by the time I met him, I'd been sober 13 years. So, I mean, I had a lot of sobriety under my belt. So, like, you sort of meet people where you are. So, no, he does not need Al-Anon. And, okay, do I read anything or I just sit down? No, I get to sit down. Thank you.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. to install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.